Welcome to the Thurston County Board briefing for July 29, 2020. It's a cast of characters today. By way of introduction, this topic, number one, is the Capital Facilities Plan, the CFP. I'm Commissioner John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Also present is the vice chair, Commissioner Ty Menser, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. And let me read you the cast of characters. We've got Jennifer Walker, the Public Works Director, Jennifer Davis from CPED, Jason Ash, Lucy Mills, Tim Wilson, Karen Weiss, Scott Lindblom, and the list goes on and on. Matt Unzelman, I see, is here. Romero, have I missed anybody?
Yeah, I have Kevin Patchin.
Oh, Rich.
Angela Celestine, I think it's Jason Ashe.
Yep.
Robin Campbell. I think you got them all.
Another Teresa Parsons as well.
Teresa
Parsons.
Parsons.
And
Tim
Mr.
Wilson.
Thomas is here.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas is with us as well, I can see.
Yeah.
I'm looking up his nose, it looks like.
And just for the record, I'm not wearing a mask because I'm all by myself in this room until Commissioner Edwards will join us here in a couple of minutes.
Do we reckon he will be in? Do we know even?
That's my understanding because I have not seen anything.
Okay. So this goes on from 8:30 until 12:30. It's a 4-hour briefing. And I will be leaving at 10:30 for the Washington Association of Counties Legislative Steering Committee meeting for a couple hours. And then I will be back. Well, I won't be back because it'll be over. So Commissioner Menser, 10:30, will you assume control? Thank you, sir. So with that, let's start with you, Romero, in framing this.
Yeah, Commissioners, this is a yearly update. This is a long day. Staff is going to go through the process, giving you a perspective in the morning on the Capital Improvement Plan, CIP. And this will be included as part of your upcoming budget. And this is the opportunity for you to listen to the specifics of those projects, the objectives, and if you have any questions. Also in the afternoon, this Transportation Improvement Program. And also there's a yearly update for you. And with that being said, then the CIP, who's going to take the lead on the morning's briefing? Jennifer Davis.
I'm going to kick it off. I'm here as a facilitator. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Jennifer Davis, Community Planning Manager with Community Planning and Economic Development. And so today, we're coordinating this briefing, as you can see, among multiple county departments, and the purpose is to give you a preview or a heads up, familiarize you with the major capital facilities that are planned to be worked on in the coming 6-year period. And this is called the Capital Improvement Plan, and it's an important piece of the overall capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan. So I'm going to try to share my screen. We'll see how this goes and walk you through. Let's see. I'm not super. Okay, let me back up here. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay. Okay, so I'm just here to give you context. CPED's role is really to act as facilitator because this is a required element of the Growth Management Act, and we're facilitating this process, which includes review by the Planning Commission and the board and the public. So it's all about transparency. As you know, the capital facilities element is a required element of our comprehensive plan, and it must identify public facilities that are needed to support our 20 years of future growth. It defines levels of service for those facilities, and it includes what we're talking about today, which is a 6-year financing plan that shows the funding sources and expected costs of all the projects that are planned to occur in some phase during the next 6 years of time. So this 6-year financing plan is known as the Capital Improvement Plan, and it's actually Appendix G of the comprehensive plan. So we take it through a very public process, and it's all about telling the public how we're going to use their dollars to fund necessary capital facilities over the next 6-year period. So we're all here today in a coordinated fashion because it takes a village to coordinate capital facilities planning. Again, CPED, my department, coordinates the growth management required process. school and fire districts who aren't here today, but you'll be receiving their information separately. When you look at a draft of the CIP down the road, they are doing their own capital facilities process and they provide us with their information annually. The budget office ensures that anything we're planning to spend over the next 6 years on capital projects are reflected and aligned with the budget. So Robin's here and can talk about that a little bit. And then, of course, most of these capital facilities come out of the Public Works Department and Central Services. And so we go over those updated project lists with you and talk about what's going to be happening for the community in the next 6 years. So again, if you're still wondering what capital facilities are, these aren't actually specifically defined in the RCW all that well. Every jurisdiction in Washington can define and identify capital facilities that are necessary to support development in their jurisdiction and can establish thresholds for the costs or the kind of lifespan of projects that they're going to put in their capital improvement plan. One thing to remember is that projects that use real estate excise tax funds or impact fees, those must be listed in our capital improvement plan in order to use those funds. It's part of transparency and required by law. This is a list of the capital facilities you'll be hearing about today from Public Works and Central Services and transportation system, water systems, sewer, stormwater, solid waste, parks and rec, county buildings, and then again, schools and police and fire facilities. Those are developed separately by those districts and will come at a later time. I received some of them already to date, but they'll be received in time to take this to the next step with the Planning Commission for review. So again, the CIP Appendix G of the comp plan is looking ahead 6 years. We update it annually right now. That's why this seems somewhat familiar to you. This annual update, of course, happens more frequently than the rest of the comprehensive plan, the policies, and the other things that support our capital facilities planning in general. We make sure that our CIP, the capital improvement plan or program, is consistent with the county budget, and it identifies the revenue source, the funding source, and the project costs that are anticipated over the next 6 years. You'll see estimates of those today, and those will be refined later through the budget process. And it also provides the opportunity for the public to see and to read about our different capital facilities and when those projects are going to occur and where they're going to occur in their community. So after today's briefing, the next steps for this project is there'll be budget work that occurs, but then the next major review process will be Planning Commission. We'll hold a work session in September. They will receive a very similar briefing to this, where they get, they and the public get to see all the different facilities and cost estimates for the next 6 years. They will hold their own public hearing, then provide a recommendation back to the board. Then this whole package comes back to you in November, December, where you'll have a public hearing, and then ultimately adoption of the CIP will happen the same time as the budget. So today, just to walk you through the agenda, we're going to start out with me, and then we're going to start out with, I think Robin and Jennifer are going to talk about project delivery. Then we're going to go over county facilities, parks and trails, water and sewer utilities, the stormwater utility. We'll have a little break in there. Then we'll cover solid waste, and finally transportation. So unless there are any questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn this over to, I think, Jennifer Walker to start talking about delivery of projects. But I'm open to any questions about process before we start. Hearing none.
Commissioner Menster, do you have no questions? Okay, I don't either. Thank you, Jennifer.
And
You're welcome.
Commissioner Edwards in the room, so he's just, no questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director. I'm going to share my screen, and Robin actually is going to take the lead on this. So let me get the presentation.
So while Jennifer brings this up, I'll just jump right in. in the fall of last year, we were looking at the projects, and one of the things that we noted, me especially being new to central services, noticed that the projects that we had were not necessarily coming in on time and were almost consistently over budget. And I knew that we needed a way to address this. Public Works wasn't quite in the same boat, but a project is a project. So Jennifer and I joined forces, and we brought in a lien expert from the state auditor's office to guide a team of both central services and public works experts in projects on how can we improve our process. So one of the things we did was to define the stages of a project. And what the team developed was this concept that a project, any project, moves through certain phases: planning, pre-design, design, and construction. And as you move through the phases, you get a better grasp on exactly what a project entails and how much it's going to cost. You want to thank you, Jennifer. So here is the flow chart that the team developed. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all the people who participated in this project and put together this process. So a project starts with a bright idea. Someone knows that there's something that needs to get done, whether that's an analysis of a road or analyzing the longevity of a sewer system, or looking at the components of a building. We know that there's something that needs to happen. So here's how we're going to manage a project now from start to end. Once you have an idea, the project manager will define the business case for the project and identify the deliverables. And the major deliverable is a cost estimate for a pre-design study. They'll get the approval of the director, either Jennifer or myself, depending on the department. And if we authorize the project to go to the next step, we assess the priority of the project. Where does it fit with all the other projects that we have in the works or are considering coming up? If it is a priority, it'll move to the next stage, and you see that in the middle column called operations budget. We've agreed to set aside some money to do pre-design work that would be mainly for projects that haven't even made it onto the CIP yet. We're just trying to assess whether or not the project is truly feasible, necessary, what's it really going to cost. And once we have that information, it comes again to review to either Jennifer or me. And if it's a feasible and necessary project, it'll move on to the next step. We still assess if it's still in the top priority of things that need to complete it. If not, we'll set it aside maybe to consider again for next year. But if it is still a priority, then it will move to the CFP or the TIP or both, depending on what type of project it is. And it'll actually move into design. This is the point where it will come to the board. We'll add it onto the documents that you will see today. We'll ensure that it is a priority for the board and that there's funding available for it. We'll propose it in the budget, and then we'll move into actual delivery of the project itself. So that's just a overview of what the project is going to be. And what we hope to achieve in this is that you will have better information when we come to you and ask for an approval to move forward and for budget, that the projects will have a better defined timeline. So you will have good expectations about when the project will be completed, and that we will have better budget estimates. Because at every stage, when it's in the bright idea stage, we might be able to go, how much is this going to cost? And we have no real idea. We can get you in a ballpark, but they are not numbers to depend on. Whereas if we follow this plan, once we get it onto the CIP, we should have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost within a plus or minus about 5% by the time it gets to design. So really, we're working together to get you better information about projects and to be able to deliver on time and on budget. So Jennifer, what would you like to add?
That was very thorough. I think that was great. The exceptions to projects that will be coming, that you will see in front of you, are if it's REIT funded or impact fee funded. Those will be on at the very, very beginning.
Right.
If we are using REIT money or impact fee money to do any type of planning, you will see that on the CIP and TIP.
And one of the things that you'll see on the tables is we have clearly identified what stage a project's in. So we've modified the table from prior years so that you can see, and depending, if you see a project that says it's in the planning phase, you will know right away that the dollar amount is a wild guess. We need to put a number on the page, and it's anybody's guess, and it could be off by 100%. But if something's in the design phase, you'll know that it's a pretty good estimate of what we think it's actually going to cost.
Robin, I have a question
Sure.
for you or Jennifer, and that is, I see the top bar says capital project phases flow chart or diagram, including REIT and impact fee. What drives the project's priority? Is it the actual need of the project to be done, or is it the funding, or is it a parallel track? Well, we love this project, it needs to be done, but we don't have the money. We'll pick something else.
So one of the things that you'll hear throughout the day today is the priority depends on the type of project it is. We've got a very different set of priority criteria for road projects than we do for building projects. So each of these areas has a set of criteria to set priority, and you should hear about those as we go through the morning.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're going to jump right into the county facility project.
Okay, good morning, commissioners. As you'll see in the next slides are the proposals for the 21 through 2026 CIP table. I'll start with leading us off with the capital facilities projects. They are designed to provide safe and sustainable public facilities to serve the public. These projects that you'll see in the following table and slides are selected based upon safety, health, accessibility, sustainability of the buildings, and operational efficiency and effectiveness of the facilities. So next we have the table that Robin was previously speaking about with the shading, showing what phase that project would be in for 2021 and 2022. There's multiple new projects added on it and some carryovers that you might be familiar with from previous CIP plans.
So I'm going to jump in here. This table for capital facility projects, these are the county buildings and county facilities. And this is different than what you used to see. This is a very targeted list. In the past, the county facility list was part of what I discovered last year there were a lot of projects on the list that either had no real money behind them and we couldn't actually afford to do them, or they were things that had just been on the plan for years and didn't have any real thinking and no one assigned to actually achieve them, or there were quite a few just pots of money that were on the list that were catch-alls. We've taken a lot of those things off. And so what you have today is a very targeted list of projects that we intend to move forward with. There are still a few items on this list that need a little more work and are in the planning phase, like the project at the fairgrounds. But most of these items are the most important things that we need to do on the buildings that we work in every day.
Yes, we did keep one placeholder on there. You'll see the major maintenance. Sorry, Jennifer. That's basically just in case we have something come up, some system that goes into failure or not. That way we're covered for to move forward with that project.
So that table, can you go back? That table was pretty small to read, so I assume that you will go into the details of each of those projects?
Yes, we will go into the majority of them. Yes, we will.
We're going to look at the highlights of the projects, the larger projects, some of the small ones, like the parking lot, we're not going to talk about today. But one of the important things is this is the list that we can afford. We have the money to do these projects, most of them. We'll talk about the one that we don't.
No, I guess I guess the point of my comment is difficult to read. So it's a very small print.
I believe this PowerPoint was provided as a handout. I don't know.
Yeah, even the
Everyone got that in
printout
time.
on the PowerPoint
Yeah.
is extremely small.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe we can have a larger print available to the commissioners later on.
Yeah,
Yes, we'll
we
make
can
sure.
provide that. What you will see as everyone goes through the projects is the focus on the upcoming biennium, so 2021 and 22 projects. So you will see a slide, I think, per project for each of those. So, but we'll get a larger copy of the table itself.
Right, because
I
this,
asked a question about that.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards has a question.
I
go
guess
ahead.
just as a suggestion, why couldn't you just send that to Amy right now and have her make a copy and bring it in? We're all right here. So I don't know what this is all about, but I'd like to see it myself if we're going to talk about it. Is that a big deal? I mean, go on with the presentation, but our printer can blow that up and make a copy of it, couldn't it? I had to go get my magnifying glass and I still can't make it out quite right.
so yes, we can have Amy print those right now.
Oh, thank you.
So what I'm sitting here wondering is how we get that message to Amy.
I'll go tell her.
I'll tell our commissioner. That's don't worry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I can read it on my computer. I mean, it doesn't help Ramiro and Commissioner Edwards, but it's not legible in the paper copy, but it's perfectly legible in the computer slides that were attached to the calendars. So if anyone's sitting at their computer, you can pull it up and read it.
Well, you know, the other piece of this is, I guess, that we're trying to keep the public in the loop, and I suppose they're going by, I don't know, they're supposed to be able to pick up a hard copy, so I just don't think it makes sense to have it like this.
Yeah, we won't be, Jennifer, you said this is a few of these projects, not every one is magnified later in the presentation.
Yes, mostly the ones that I'm sorry, you asked Jennifer and I jumped.
That's fine.
But the majority of the projects that we have in the 21 and 22 budgets, we have a separate slide. We'll talk about each of those. And then the budgets that are out in future years, we're not going to go into detail in the interest of time.
Well, that's great. So the priority ones we'll be covering in detail, and everybody can read it. But in the meantime, having this overall CFP screen blown up would be helpful too.
Right. So one of the things that is the point of this day is it's the opportunity for the board to review the capital projects that will be your capital budget. And if anything's missing here, for you to bring that up for us, or if there's anything on these lists that you would not want to do. So it is important that you're able to read them.
Yes, thank you.
So would you like us to move to the next slide, or do you want to wait a moment for the printouts?
Well, we're going to cover the top ones later on in the presentation. And in the interest of time, let's just keep moving, because I think the blow up of this is in progress.
Okay, great.
Okay. So on the next slide are some projects that were previously approved by the board that were completed in 2019. These included an upgrade of the coroner air handler system. They were having trouble keeping that building at recommended temperature. So with this project, we were able to complete that. The Tilly campus traffic safety improvements, the emergency courthouse electrical repairs, and also the Tilly campus space improvements, which included moving some departments around and making the space work for them out there. Currently under construction, or hopefully beginning construction this year, 2020, we have the security improvements, which include multiple upgrades and additions at sites all throughout the county. We currently are looking at or hoping to begin construction soon on the HVAC upgrade at the ESC building. We also have the major maintenance, which, as Robin mentioned, we kind of switched around a little bit. We lowered the amount for the placeholder. That's in case any projects come up that we do not have defined on the list. Tilly power improvements, which will include a addition of a generator for the brine plant. We also have the Tilly sand shed and the Tilly South parking lot, which I believe you guys are all familiar with, that we're moving forward with.
Yeah, fairly.
Next, we have some of the upcoming projects for 2021. The first one is one, like Robin mentioned earlier, that we actually do not have money for. But you may notice when you look at the table that we did not put the new courthouse facility on the CFP proposal. What we went with was basically a plan B, which I know has been discussed. This project would allow the courthouse to remain suitable until a long-term solution is found. As you may know, current systems are facing imminent failure. We need to make the campus safe and suitable till the long-term solution. Doing this, even though it's at a great cost, will not greatly increase the lifespan of the current courthouse complex. Using the 2016 Mang analysis, we added compounded interest over the time and whatnot, and came up with an estimated cost of $50.5 million.
So I'm going to jump in on this slide too. This is the one project on the plan that is not funded, and yet it is probably the one most needed. The systems in these buildings are failing, as Jason said. And we cannot stay in them for the next 5 to 10 years without doing major work just to be able to stay in the buildings. That's not to improve the lifespan of the buildings. It's just so that they remain functional. So we've got this on the plan because we know we need to do something, but exactly what we do is going to be part of the discussion that we have about Plan B. This is also open enough that should the board approve a ballot measure next year to take the next steps forward with getting a new courthouse, or if we should be so fortunate as to receive a federal grant that would allow us to build a new courthouse, we can still do it because the project is on the list. But we need to have a serious conversation about where to go next with the facilities that we're in today.
That will be a very serious conversation because we're in desperate need because of the current courthouse failures. But it's going to take quite some time for the economy to come back. And though I'm glad it was a unanimous decision to remove this from the ballot and from in March, it was a responsible thing to do. It doesn't make this go away. So we'll have to address that some way, somehow, but knowing full well the economy for the citizens of Thurston County is going to be really tough for a while. But thank you.
I will add that as you see the next slides, they are basically prioritized. Me and Robin met and discussed them. They are prioritized in the emergent or in a way that we feel they need to be assessed. So first on our list, besides the courthouse complex, of course, we have, as you guys know from a previous meeting, we have FJC is in need of many repairs. One that we do have funding for, and that is at the top of the list, is the hydronic repair over there. Currently the ceiling, the hydronic heating system is failing. We have multiple leaks throughout the building. So it in turn is causing the ceiling to fail also. We need to add ceiling access to be able to get to the heating system. We would not be changing the design of the system at all. It would be basically replacing like for like. We came up with the estimated cost of $500,000 for this. We do have the funding available for this project also. Next on the list is the Thurston County Correctional Facility roofing and stucco repair. Much like FJC, water is penetrating the building. So we need to make multiple roof repairs and repairs to the flashing and also to the stucco. This would include adding downspouts to move the water away from the building, which in turn will help prevent any further water damage. We have an estimated cost of $350,000 for this project.
Hey, Jason, will you, for the viewing public, will you explain the acronyms FJC and TCCF and such as we go along?
Family and Juvenile Court, and TCCF is Thurston County Correctional Facility.
Thank you.
Next on the list, we have the Thurston County Correctional Facility Recreation Yard. This would create a recreation yard in the current Sallyport area. This would be a roof, include a roof and fenced enclosure, additional security cameras, and an estimated cost of $200,000. This project is highly prioritized since it is mandated by law that we provide the female inmates with an area to recreate. Next up is a project that is, if approved and the grant is approved, we will move forward with. This is an expansion of the current CSA building. This would include adding 6 beds with the estimated cost of $1.5 million. This, I believe, is a Department of Commerce grant that Mark Friedman is currently applying for.
So it's my understanding, yeah, go back. We have no idea what the acronym CSA stands for, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, I know that building, but I don't know that.
As we continue on, any acronyms, please spell them out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, and with this particular item, it's, as you know, an expansion of the current facility, the mental health facility that's there.
So what is CSA?
We don't know.
Oh, nobody knows?
No.
That's the name that the building came with.
Oh, good grief, okay.
I think it was when Martin Casey was the director, and at some point it was an idea to have some of the offices for central services be located there.
Okay.
And I think it was leading to Central Services Administration Building.
Oh, that's interesting. It had that acronym though before Martin came.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Building 6 roof repair, which is the public defense building. The current roof has multiple areas where water is penetrating the building. So we would remove the existing roof. We would replace with a new composition and PVC roof. This would prevent the further water damage from entering the building, which is also causing damage to the interior walls and ceiling. This, we estimated the cost at $350,000.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Tilly Building E HVAC Improvements. This would modify the air handling equipment. Currently, there is a adjacent property owner who does routine burning, which when he does the burn, smoke penetrates through the current system and is smelled throughout the building. This has an estimated cost of $150,000. And last on the list is a project that you guys are familiar with, I believe, is the jail flex unit. This would add 40 new beds, adding capacity and allowing for further expansion in the future if needed. This has an estimated cost of $25 million.
So I'm going to jump in here and just say that just because it's on the list doesn't mean it's going to happen. We tried to do a realistic list, but we know that this project is currently on hold until the board gives approval to move forward. But if you should give approval to move forward with either the project as it's defined or any version of expansion of our jail beds, the project needs to be on the CFP. So that's why you see it here today.
Thank you.
That included the list of all our major projects for 2021 and 2022.
So before we jump into parks and trails, do you have the expanded plan for
Yeah,
central services?
Yeah,
got it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So are there any questions about the plan overall or any particular project on the list?
No, I'm glad to see that the county, that you still keep on the list, the jail flex unit, because the sheriff and corrections need it and can justify it. Although the majority of the board chose to put it on hold, I was ready to move forward with the A&E portion of it because it wasn't going to cost anything, but I'm glad it remains on that list. How long does it remain on the list? Until we remove it or until it's done?
Yes, until it's either until the board decides to not fund an expansion project or until the project is complete, whatever the project might look like.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Thank you, Robin.
Wait, and thank you, if I may, Commissioner. That is a clear statement that Robin just made at the end, or any project they could be. So it gives us not just the flex unit as you envisioned or you have heard, it could be any other project related to jail expansion.
All right, thank you.
Are we gonna go back to our sheet that's blown up now and go over that?
Yes, we could certainly do that. So me go back. All right. So just to quickly work down the list, you're familiar with the sand and material shed that is in progress. And we expect that to be completed in 2021. The parking lot is part of that project. The two of them go together. The Building 5 parking lot is in poor repair. So we've started, I think that's in the design phase. It'll be in construction next year, as you see on the list. The Tilly building HVAC is one of the projects that Jason just talked about as he did the power system. Courthouse Building 3 secured entrance. The court has requested a redesign of the entrance to that building. It's in progress. And the
Can I ask something about that?
Yes.
Okay, so the court has asked for a redesign. So did we say, go ahead and redesign it? Who's got the say? The court's asking, the Board of County Commissioners? Who makes the decision?
So the decision was made, I'm not sure what year this project was put on the list, but I'm assuming it was there last year, because we've already started work on that and the money is in this year's capital budget. So that was approved by the board in the budget for 2020. And this is just a continuation of this project.
So that's the 225,000?
Yes.
And do we have any visual concept at all? I mean, is that just for the planning, or is there some kind of a layout that shows how that entrance is going to develop?
I don't think that we have the design yet, but I can certainly check with the project manager. I'm not sure if that's Michael or Mariusz.
I believe it's Mariusz.
It's Mariusz.
Yes.
We can get you more information, Commissioner, on that project.
And the countywide security improvements coming out
Yes.
of REIT, what's that all about?
That is the project that Michael Crow has been working on. We've got a list of projects. We completed the projects here on the campus for buildings 1, 2, 3, I think 4 was completed. We've expanded now to buildings 5, 6, Tilly, Fairgrounds, Lily, and we have a briefing coming up for you. It's had to be rescheduled a few times, so I'm not quite sure right now where it is on the calendar, but we have been trying to have a briefing of all of the projects that have been recommended by the security specialist in the order that we intend to finish them in.
I guess my follow-up question would be, it says rural Thurston County for, I don't know, design, construction. I really don't know what that means, but I'm kind of curious, what does that mean? We got something going out in the rural part of the county that's going to include some kind of a security upgrade?
Where is that?
So any project that was not specifically in one of the urban growth areas has been tagged as rural Thurston County for whatever reason.
Well, right, but I'm just trying to think, I don't know where any of those are at. That's what I'm asking.
Well, the Tilly campus is located in the rural area of Thurston County.
That's not in the urban growth area of Tumwater?
And that's outside.
Okay, so that's the only place I can think of, is that right?
As far as I know, yeah.
So I would, as far as the location, I would defer to Jennifer to define why these projects. But my understanding was if it's not in one of the city UGAs, that it's just tagged as rural Thurston County.
Okay.
I see Commissioner Mentzer's hand.
If this is when we're asking questions about specific projects, I need to go back to Tilly HVAC.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand the explanation. Something about a neighbor that's doing burning and then smoke gets into the building. Is there any other way? Did I understand that right? And isn't there some other way to address that?
We have reached out to the fire marshal, and all of his burning that he does is legal burning. So there is nothing we can do to prevent him from doing that. So we just basically need to change up the current system to filter that smoke out before it enters the facility.
Okay. The other one that caught my attention on the list that you went through was the jail, like the idea that there's leaking roof in the jail. And I know when we first found out about issues at the family court, I know some of the commissioners were like, you know, wait a minute, that we think of that as a pretty new building. And the jail, I think, is even quite a bit more new than the family court. So that just raises my eyebrow why there'd be a leaking roof on a building of that recent vintage.
It is my understanding that the roof was not correctly installed. They did not wrap the walls the way they were supposed to and whatnot. But unfortunately, all of that warranty has expired. So we can't go back on the contractor or the roofing manufacturer for it. So that is why we are having failure of that current structure.
I'd like to make a comment on that, follow up.
Was there a failure of us to inspect or to catch that? I mean, there's some provisions in the law that say if it couldn't be discovered, there's a discovery rule, and your limitation on taking action is not limited by your failure to discover something you couldn't have discovered. Then there's other times where obviously, I don't know about building construction requirements for the buyer ourselves to have the duty to inspect the work and to have seen the problem. Sounds like maybe that's the category we're in since we can't take action.
Unfortunately, that was previous to my time with the county, so I can't speak to what the process was for inspection or not at the completion of that facility.
So the jail passed all inspections at the time it was completed. But there were a few things that apparently were missed in those final inspections. And the design of the roof, it just didn't function the way it was expected to.
I like your line of thinking though, Commissioner Menser. Let's go after someone if we can, if it's something we didn't see or could not have foreseen.
We've tried that on a few things in the new jail and been unsuccessful.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, you had a follow-up?
Well, I guess because I'm the oldest guy around here that's been through all this, you're right. Nobody's here now when that took place. But that jail was constructed and then it sat empty for about 6 years. And during that period of time, it deteriorated. None of that stuff was discovered and the warranty ran out. So I don't think there's anybody here to blame.
So I would like to just clarify that it sat empty for 2 years, not 6. And
Well, okay, let's
let her finish. Commissioner. Let her finish. Go ahead,
the
Robin.
warranties did run out.
let's agree to disagree on that. The completion was extended way out, many years from the time it was actually completed. So that wouldn't look so bad for anybody involved in county government at the time.
So I can give you copies of when it was certified as complete by the city, with the occupation, I forget what the title is, but it was the license to occupy. And I can show you when the sheriff moved in.
Oh, yes, I know all that. And I know all about it being delayed. So to get that certification.
Was authorized by the city. In any case, Jennifer, could you go back to the list, please? So moving down the list, I think we were at the secured entrance. And we'll get you more information on that. Then, as I said, there's an upcoming briefing on the security improvements. We've talked about the roof. We just talked about the roof, the new jail. The fairgrounds, you just recently received a letter from the Fair Board. They have some projects in mind and are trying to get match money to make this money go farther. So we're waiting for the board to approve a specific project that we can do at the fairgrounds. This particular project has been on the CIP for about 6 years. You're aware of the rec yard that's going in response to grievance. We've talked about the flex unit, the FJC hydronic repairs, which, by the way, is the #1 need other than the courthouse. And what you can't see here is the extremely comprehensive list of needs that we are not able to fund. And Jason has the list handy. We wish you could see it. We'll get you a copy, but we only picked the most important things to go on this list. The CSA expansion we've talked about, that's a project if we get a grant. Then we move to projects that are starting in 2022 and beyond. You don't see a project phase for those because most of those are still in the planning stage. And those are the IT room at the jail needs to be upgraded. There's sewer repair necessary at building 4. The cameras need to be upgraded at the jail. The court at the FJC, they have asked for improvements. We're looking to be able to pay for those out of the trial court improvement fund. And we've been working with a designer to see what's possible for the best use of space there, but we won't start that project this year because there's not enough money. Then there is the emergency services roof repair. That will come at a later time when the roof is scheduled for repair, and we'll assess that as we go. Another HVAC, building 3 courtroom improvements. Depending on what you choose to do with the courthouse, those are on the list in case there's funding and we can move that up. Land acquisition, again, is on the list in case we should move forward with something for the courthouse. And then the pump house improvements at Tilly will be necessary in the next few years, and a major maintenance category in case something is emergent.
All right, thank you. And some of these I see are pushed out to 2025 and 2026. And they can move up or down or off the list, I would imagine.
That's when we think we might have the funding available to do these projects. But they are high priority projects to make sure that the facilities are still functional.
So short of it would take a catastrophic event in order of failure to have one of these projects to get bumped up as a priority, like the camera upgrade at the correction facility.
Right, because we need the money.
Or roof replacement, got it. All right, thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Nope, okay, let's press on. Well, let me ask, who's gonna take the lead here now, Jennifer or Robin?
I am. Thank you, Jennifer.
Jennifer, is this a good time to take maybe a 10-minute break? We've been at for an hour. I don't know how long the Parks and Trails is.
Absolutely, if you'd like to take a break.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break. It's 9:30. We'll be back at 9:40. Thank you.
So what you're going to hear from each of the division managers on these different systems is a report out on projects that were constructed and completed in 2019, projects that we anticipate are either under construction or completing construction in 2020. And then the primary focus will be on our 21-22 projects. So we'll talk about, I guess, larger picture, how projects are selected, what projects are selected, the funding for those projects, and really what problems we're trying to solve, what the improvements are. So we'll go through in detail on all of those. I think right now we are on schedule, but we also have the TIP briefing at, I believe, 12:30. So the last section of projects for this briefing that ends at 12:30 is transportation. So if we need to make up time, we can shift those projects and that discussion to the 12:30 briefing. We'll have time to fit that in. So,
And Jennifer,
yes.
I just want to remind you that at 10:30, I'm leaving for a legislative steering committee meeting. So I don't want you to think I just checked out. Okay, but Kelly Lee, my aide, will be listening in to take notes as well.
Okay, fantastic. And then please I'll follow up with you to see if you have any specific questions on any of the projects.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so with that, speaking for Parks and Trails projects is Miss Lucy Mills, who is our road operations manager.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning, Lucy.
Morning.
Lucy Mills, road operations manager today, but today I'm going to be talking about Parks and Trails projects. All the Parks and Trails capital projects are required to be listed on the CIP regardless of project scope, as they are all funded by real estate excise tax or parks impact fees. As you know, Parks has very limited resources, so we are focusing on projects to existing facilities that increase capacity while also reduce maintenance and operations costs. We are also working on developing standard designs for parks facilities. For example, using the same standard design and layout for restrooms to reduce further engineering and design costs. Once a project is selected and placed on the CIP is based on several factors such as system needs, safety, funding, maintenance requirements, and improving level of service. Parks and Trails projects that are in construction in 2020 include the Deschutes River Trestle Substructure Repair Project. This is currently under construction. The project consists of repairs to the substructures such as repairing the piling. The project cost is an estimated $460,000. The Kennydale Park Lodge renovation project consists of replacing tables and chairs, installing new carpet and a new furnace. These improvements will help ensure continued revenue from lodge rentals. The project estimated cost is $50,000 and is refunded. The Chehalis Western Trail Railroad Undercrossing project, I think everybody is very familiar with. Thurston County worked with the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad to construct a crossing under the active railroad tracks. The project connected the northern and southern portion of the Chehalis Western Trail, providing a safer route for trail users. This project was completed this spring and was an estimated cost of $1.7 million.
Lucy, could I ask you a question quick?
Sure.
That one you just went over, I'm looking at page 28, and there's 3 different projects, and you gave a dollar amount. The other ones sometimes have dollar amounts associated. Could you give me the dollar amounts again for those, the Trestle, the Kennydale Park, and the Chehalis Western Undercrossing?
The trestle substructure was $460,000, and that was split between park impact fee and REIT funding. The Kennydale Lodge renovation project is $50,000, and that's REIT funding only. And then the Burlington Northern Railroad Crossing and the Chehalis Western Trail Connection was an estimated $1.7 million project, and that was split between park impact fee and REIT funding.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we'll discuss upcoming Parks and Trails projects for the 21-22 biennium. The first one is the Deschutes Falls Park Walkway and Viewpoint Improvements. That park has become very popular. We get a lot of visitors there, and the viewpoints have become very muddy. And so this project includes the addition of a viewpoint platform overlooking the falls and improvements to the path to the viewpoint. It is park impact fee and refunded with an estimated cost of $550. It is scheduled for construction in 20 and 21.
550,000?
Yeah, 550,000.
I thought we were getting a buy on that one. Lucy,
would.
And Lucy,
you had
Lucy,
a,
you said we get a number of visitors there.
Yeah,
Do we have
how
any
many?
idea how many?
there you go.
I don't have that information in front of me, but I can get that for you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
That was my question, sir. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, going on to the next project. This is the Burfoot Park restroom replacement. This project includes the removal of an existing restroom and replacing it with a larger, more efficient building, increasing capacity and reducing the amount of required maintenance. It also includes the addition of a smaller second restroom located near the playground. This is park impact fee and REIT funded at an estimated cost of $1.1 million. During this process, we will be developing the template to use for the restroom to be used on other projects to hopefully reduce funding costs on those projects as we move forward. The Yelm Tenino Trail restroom located in Rainier. This project will install a new restroom building in the city of Rainier near the city park to replace an outdated portable building which is currently operated by the city. The existing restroom is not operational most of the year. It is well beyond its reasonable life expectancy. The 14-mile trail has a restroom at both ends, but it doesn't have anything except this one facility at that midpoint. So we are hoping to partner with the city on the maintenance and operation of this facility to reduce costs to the county. It will be park impact fee and REIT funded. The estimated cost is currently $700,000, but we're hoping by using that template already developed, that cost will go down.
Question?
Yes.
On that particular project, will we have a separate briefing on that issue relatively soon, I guess, because for the planning purposes, but I'd like to have a discussion with my seatmates about that whole process, including maybe the mayor from Rainier, somewhere in there, because we've got a pretty good agreement with those folks. I think we can get that cost way down.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah, we weren't planning on having, scheduling a briefing, but we certainly can if the board would like us to do that.
Well, I'd just hate to see us move forward just as a given that this is the way it's going to be. Because I think we can count on a pretty good relationship with the city of Rainier on this.
Okay.
I guess I need to hear from my seatmates if they're interested in that. I don't get to call meetings on my own. So.
Well, I would be, yes, I would.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the next project is the Chehalis Western Trail culvert replacement. Many of the county parks and trails culverts are reaching their life expectancy and need replacement. The existing failing culverts impact fish passage and do not meet NPDES standards. This project would be REIT funded as it does not increase capacity, which is a requirement for park impact fee usage. The estimated cost is $200,000 and it was scheduled for construction in 2022, excuse me.
And where is that located at?
That is near Latigo Street
Okay.
off Rich Road.
Is this listed as one of our priorities on salmon issues?
I do not believe it is. I can check on that though.
I'd like to see some coordination there with the same group that is handling our salmon priority issues on culverts, if that's okay.
Jennifer, do you mind if I jump in? This is Teresa Parsons.
Please, Teresa, thank you.
Yes, this is Commissioner Edwards, one of the priority projects, and it's adjacent to a culvert we are also replacing under the road at Latigo. So it will open up a fairly important stretch of habitat, and the Squaxin tribe is very interested in this as well.
Okay, just as a follow-up to that, I'd like to make sure that we're exploring all avenues for funding to include maybe that project and save money. You know, if we're going to designate that as a priority salmon culvert, and we're actually doing another one in the immediate close proximity, to see if we can't get a grant to do some kind of a matching grant there to do the whole thing, especially if we had the ability to explain how much more salmon habitat we were creating by doing that.
We will definitely look into that. We've been successful in another area close by to receive some salmon recovery funding. So we'll definitely look and see what's available here.
Thank you.
Okay, the next project is the Burfoot Park level and grade of the lawn area. This project includes the regrading of a 3-acre lawn area. It will reduce the amount of maintenance time needed and will make the area more usable for the public for recreational activities. This project is refunded with an estimated cost of $100,000. It will begin in 2022, but it'll be phased so that we don't have to close the park to do the whole project. We'll do sections of the park for a number of years. Next project is the Chehalis Western Trail, 41st Avenue Northeast Trailhead. This project includes creating a parking area for the Chehalis Western Trail on 41st Avenue. It'll allow for vehicles to park in a safe manner, as right now they're parking along various county roads, creating a lot of safety concerns, a lot of congestion. This will be park impact fee and REIT funded at an estimated cost of just about $500,000 and is scheduled for construction in 2022.
And on that project, we already own the property that's going to be utilized for parking, right?
I believe so, yes.
I'd like to hear more about that too, because boy, I don't know what you've got in mind. That seems like a lot of money for a parking area.
That'd be fine. We can combine these. For a future briefing.
Okay.
What was the dollar amount? I didn't hear that.
505,000.
The project does include drainage because it'll be a paved parking area. It does have to have some drainage improvements as well, I know.
Well, impervious conditions might be a better way to go on that too. So a lot of things to think about on that.
Okay. The next project is the Kennydale Park restroom replacement. This project replaces the existing restroom located near the lodge. The new restroom will address additional capacity, reduce maintenance, and become ADA compliant. It is scheduled for construction in 2022 at an estimated cost of $715,000. Again, this is a project we think we'll be able to reduce the cost because we already have the template for the restroom already developed. And so hopefully we can just expand or modify that slightly and just kind of like a plug and play type of restroom there. Next project is the Deschutes Falls Park parking lot expansion. The project adds existing parking to the site. Again, as I said, we're getting a lot of visitors there, and at certain times they're actually parking out on Bald Hills Road and having to walk into the park. And so this will create existing expand parking within the park itself, allowing increasing capacity for and increasing safety for park users. That is park impact fee and REIT funded at an estimated cost of $165,000.
Again, a question, Commissioner?
Yeah, go ahead.
On that particular issue as well, we don't have any disabled access to that area down there. It's just really tough for people that are in a wheelchair. And I know when that was privately owned, there was plenty of adequate parking further on down below the existing parking lot. I believe that's all there. I'd like to also have some discussion about that to make that more accessible to citizens that won't have to walk the, I don't know, quarter mile or whatever it is down below there. So I'd like to make sure that we get a chance to weigh in on that at some point in the future.
Okay. Next is the Fry Cove Park lawn renovation. The existing lawn has been settling in a way that produces a lot of sinkholes. The fill over which the lawn was placed was actually rubble from a building that was previously there. And so this project will excavate the lawn, remove the concrete rubble, replace and regrade the soils. The project estimated cost is $50,000 of REIT funded and is scheduled for construction in 22 and 23. Again, we're going to phase that so we don't have to close the entire park at one time.
I guess, have we got any indications that there's actual environmental damage by that concrete being there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Again, I'd like to take a look at that because I don't know that concrete needs to be removed. We just need to put some fill material, some good topsoil in there and grade it out. And I think we can solve that problem for way less than that.
Okay, we will take a look at that. That wraps up the Parks and Trails projects listed on this table. We do have some programs listed near the bottom, and I'll go through those now. Those are the Asset Management Implementation Program. This program will implement an asset management process to provide planning, condition assessment, and maintenance to county-owned facilities and infrastructures. That'll be ongoing. We also have the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Acquisition Program. While Parks is not actively seeking to purchase property, we have this program on the CIP so we can take advantage of any unexpected opportunities that may arise. That makes sense to add something, for example, trail connections or park expansions to connect to trails type of issues. And then we finally have the Parks Improvement and Development Program. This program covers major maintenance and repair, unexpected repair to park infrastructures that we cannot plan for. So that completes the review of the parks programs and projects. Is there any questions?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Ty.
I just like to compliment the staff that was involved in putting this together. I haven't seen this walk through, and it just seems like a really solid, sensible list of park projects. Like, really focused on keeping the integrity of our existing system and upgrading it in ways that are like straightforward and very sensible to me. So I just want to give kudos to the team that put all this together.
I would echo that, and where I share some of Commissioner Edwards' questions regarding what are some of the options that were looked at. I do not want to get myself, I want to stay at the policy level height and not down into the project, but some of these questions some of these projects do beg a question of what else was looked at, and is this the best alternative or the best way to go? But I do compliment staff for all the comprehensive work that was done. Thank you.
I would like to follow up on the question that was asked regarding attendance at Deschutes. So in 2019, there were 18,560.
Wait. Let me get back here to the page. Oh my goodness, I'm almost there. Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Jennifer.
In 2019, there were 18,567 visits. And
Wow.
in 2020, and I believe this is through the second quarter, there have been 10,243 visits. And this is data that we do report out on OpenGov. It's one of the measures that we report out on OpenGov also.
That's a considerable amount of visitors. I think that's really cool. I like that. More than I expected.
Jennifer, how do you measure that? I was out there in 2019 and I don't remember signing anything or seeing any county staff. I walked around and I left. How do you know how many people are there?
Yeah,
Hang on, I'm adding 1 to that total now.
I believe they have counts out there. So they're recording what's going across. Lucy, do you know the specifics of that?
Right. At most of our park entrances, we actually have counters that will count the number of vehicles, and then we do an extrapolation of how many average people are in a vehicle.
Yeah.
And come up with the totals that way.
Excellent. That's interesting. Thank you.
So it doesn't rely on our on-site caretakers.
No.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
We
Very
wouldn't
good.
have the resources to be able to do that. And I think Lucy did a really good job of highlighting that one of the strategies that we put in place a couple of years ago, because we don't have a lot of funding for ongoing maintenance and operations. So anything that we're considering building, we're taking that, keeping that in mind, right? So, we're not planning on building some huge, 50 parking stall area, because if we don't have the money to maintain that, that's really not a good use of the funds that we have available. So we're trying to keep that in mind in terms of adding capacity to our existing facilities and also looking at ways that we can reduce the maintenance and operations costs,
Very
or at
good.
least try to keep them even.
I noticed that you made that, or Lucy made that comment with regard to the restroom upgrades, which is great.
Yeah.
Improving them and expanding them, but yet structuring them in a way that reduces maintenance costs for us. So thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Division Manager, Public Works. And I am going to be talking to you this morning about the water, sewer, and stormwater utilities. I would also note that on board, logged in, we also have Kevin Patching, the Utility Operations Manager, and Zainab Najati, Senior Civil Engineer with our Technical Services Group, who may be able to assist with any technical questions that you might have. Going to start out with the water and sewer utilities, and I would just note that similar to Jason and Lucy's presentations, there is a table at the end that talks about phasing, but I will attempt as we go through the projects to speak to the phasing, so we won't need to spend a lot of time at the tables at the end. So just an overview of the water and sewer utilities projects. As a reminder, we have 7 separate utilities, 3 water, 4 sewer utilities out there. The projects for water and sewer are designed to provide safe, reliable drinking water for our customers and accommodate growth where relevant. In addition to that, our sewer utilities are designed to protect our water resources by providing quality sewer treatment. The projects are primarily selected to meet state and federal regulatory requirements, as well as to meet service demand. And the projects are funded primarily by water and sewer utility rates. Some projects may have refunding, and I will attempt to call that out as we move forward. So to speak about projects previously approved by the board in 2019, we had a large project in Grand Mound, a 500,000 gallon reservoir that was added, and this was added to provide adequate water supply to the system and to provide adequate fire flow as well. In 2020, we have several projects that are underway, near completion in some cases. We have the Grand Mound SCADA communications upgrade. SCADA is an acronym for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. SCADA provides communications between the different components of the systems, basically is the brains of the system. We will also, in future slides, I'll be talking about SCADA upgrades that will be occurring at different locations in 2021 and 2022. Currently, we are wrapping up a project, a Boston Harbor Wastewater Plant electrical upgrade. This is for electrical components that recently failed, a programmable logic controller. And I believe, in speaking to Kevin, that was wrapping up this week. We have also been involved fairly heavily in asset management collection and kicking off that program in 2020. That project has been funded with refunding, and we are expecting that to continue into 2021. Okay, so for projects upcoming in 2021 and 2022, we have the Grand Mound Clarifier number 2. This is a rebuild and recoding project. It will refurbish and repair one of our clarifiers. It's necessary for continued operation of the system. It is a permit required project funded by utility rates, and the estimated cost for this is $135,000. We have it's scheduled for design in 2021 and construction in 2022.
Could you go into a little more detail about what that reclarifier is?
Yes, I would say it is, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, or Zainab, but it is one of the last steps in the treatment process. It is where the treated wastewater goes after the solids are removed. This is where it receives UV treatment and then would discharge, in this case, into the river out there. And Kevin, if you have anything to add, please do.
I guess as a follow-up, what do we do with our solids?
Our solids at Grand Mound are typically shipped off and distributed to locations for, I believe, for biosludge application. Kevin, could you add to that?
You bet. So Grand Mound, during the summer, all of their biosolids go to land application, and it makes grass and hay. And in the winter, when we can't land apply it, it goes to another facility for further treatment.
And when you say, does that go locally or shipped away, or what happens?
It's a land applied in Woodland right now.
Do they buy it from us?
No, we paid it to have it trucked, and we don't pay to have it land applied, if that makes sense. So we pay significantly less to have it hauled and land applied than we do if we have to send it for further treatment.
Is there any discussions going on with maybe, I don't know, either Yelm or Tenino? Somebody's doing something on their sewer system down there that they're gonna be able to do something besides that, aren't they?
We, yeah, we can have a discussion a little bit further another time probably, but we have looked to try to land apply locally, and it's been held up a couple times because of some court complications. We have a place in Centralia that's 5 miles from us. It's 100-acre land application site, but it was held up in court, so we continue just to take it down to Woodland.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna wanna ask some more questions at a later date on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. The next project, next slide, is the Grand Mountain wastewater oxidation ditch. And this ditch is actually a concrete encased structure. It is in the treatment train. It is prior to the clarifier. And this is a serpentine path where the mixing of waste for biological processing occurs. Commissioner Menzer, you may recall this from your tour out to the site earlier. This is for design and construction of the new ditch and disinfection equipment. It's needed for future growth as well. It's also a permit requirement. The estimated cost for this is $2 million. We have $250,000 budgeted for design in 2022 and $1.55 million for construction in 2023.
Tim, was that you explaining that? Was that Tim?
Yeah. Yes.
How many hookups do we have that are either homes or is like Great Wolf Lodge? Is that hooked up to it? Businesses around there? Do you know the numbers?
Great Wolf Lodge is hooked up to it. I would have to refer back to Kevin for the connections in Grand Mound. I think we have something like 880 system-wide for all the systems. Kevin, hookups for Grand Mound?
Yeah, our hookups for Grand Mound is just under 400 total. But if we look at the businesses, Great Wolf, Maple Lane School, it puts our ERUs about 2,000, I believe. So if you looked at it like 2,000 homes are hooked up, would be a pretty rough estimate.
So the new hotel there and restaurants and Great Wolf Lodge and the other businesses around there, as well as Maple Lane, how about individual housing units?
I don't have that number right in front of me, but I could definitely share that information at the end of this meeting.
And where are we at on capacity for what we're serving? I mean, are we up against it? We got halfway full? What's going on?
Well, if we look at sewer, right now it's designed, we're about 2/3 of our capacity for the current design, which is 300,000 gallons. And when the plant is completely built out, which is what he's talking about here, where we add all the extra components, when it's completely built out, we're going to be looking at 1.2 million gallons a day. So right now we're getting about 200,000 gallons a day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. The next project would be the Grand Mound wastewater Class A reclamation coming up in 2021 and 2022. We have design scheduled for 2021, construction for 2022. Although we recognize this is a very large project and the schedule for that is pretty aggressive. So that may change. The Grand Mound wastewater Class A reclamation, even though the title states wastewater, it is a condition of future water rights acquisition. It expands our system capacity There is some REAP funding for this, and the estimated cost is $2.25 million. Next project is the Boston Harbor generator replacement. This replaces outdated equipment at Boston Harbor. It's more cost-effective maintenance. It ensures a reliable source of emergency power in the event of an outage. It is funded through utility rates, and the estimated cost is $300,000. At this point, the alternatives analysis has been done for this, which puts it roughly at about 15% design, and construction is scheduled for 2021.
Good.
Next project is the Tamashan Water Treatment Unit Process Assessment Upgrade. This is a water filtration upgrade that should improve our ability to manage disinfection byproducts within our potable water system. It's scheduled for design in 2021, and there is some refunding for this as well, and the estimated cost is $180,000. Next projects for 2021 and 2022 are a continuation of the SCADA system upgrades that I mentioned earlier. This replaces outdated control systems. It will be occurring at multiple locations. It's rate funded, and the estimated cost is $200,000. And also previously touched on this a little bit, but we began our asset management efforts in 2020, and we'll be continuing those into 2021 and 2022. The asset management program will provide us a mapped inventory of all our county-owned water and sewer assets. It will provide an integrated database. It will be associated with the ViewWorks software platform. It is both rate and refunded, and the estimated cost going forward would be $200,000.
A quick question on that, maybe for the county manager, but I don't know the answer to this. Didn't we just do something about $65,000 worth the okay to move forward on something like this, or was it this, I guess, just recently, last few days, and I just wonder if that's part of that estimated 200,000.
No, that was a little bit different. Perhaps what you may recall is the utility consolidation.
Yes.
Briefing.
Yeah.
And that is different than this item, and that will be coming up as part of the request for a study the department will do later on. So it's a little bit different, related but different.
Okay.
And then the next slide is again our table, which we spoke as we moved through this about phasing of the individual projects. I would also add, similar to what Lucy mentioned regarding the improvement programs out there, we have, for most of our utilities, we have a water and sewer infrastructure improvement programs, which allows us to deal with emerging issues and smaller projects as they come up.
How about, I guess my question would be, is this the one that we're referring to? Is this a different one too? Because it's similar.
The utility consolidation study that you were briefed on last week is just that. It is an evaluation of our ability to consolidate what is now our 7 different utilities into potentially 2 utilities. So instead of 4 separate water utility, or 3 separate water utilities and 4 separate sewer utilities, we are trying to evaluate whether it would make more sense to consolidate these into 1 single water utility and 1 single sewer utility. So that was the briefing last week.
Okay.
So now I will touch on the stormwater utility. The stormwater utility is designed to reduce localized flooding and improve water quality in Thurston County. The majority of the projects for the stormwater utility are initiated through drainage and or retrofit studies that are done. They can also be initiated through community complaints and or documented flooding or water quality concerns. So there's a variety of ways that these projects can become initiated. They're generally selected to meet state and federal requirements. And in addition to our normal CFP review process, stormwater utility projects also go through a review each year by the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board, which you just recently received a briefing from. The stormwater projects are funded primarily by stormwater rates, although we've also been successful in leveraging some Department of Ecology grant funding for some of our projects as well. So the first project, a project that was already approved and constructed, completed in 2019, was the Albany Stormwater Pond Project. This is a new infiltration pond on Albany Street, southwest in Rochester. It provides drainage for 30 acres of streets. It included an innovative community amphitheater that we will use for educational programs going forward. The cost of the project was $1.84 million, and we were successful in getting a $1.1 million ecology grant for that. It's a project that we're quite proud of course. It not only provides stormwater treatment, but the grant that we received was for groundwater recharge and stream flow augmentation. So the water that this collects during the wet months moves towards the Black River and actually recharges the Black River to the tune of about 5 million gallons at a time of low flows. So it's a project we're quite proud of. Next project is one that we will be constructing in 2020, Woodland Creek Estates. It is in the Lacey UGA north of 15th Avenue. It's an area identified as a major source of fecal coliform, and it's designed to improve water quality to Woodland Creek and the Henderson Inlet. It is a biofiltration swale. It is rate funded, and the estimated cost for this is $500,000. So projects coming forward in 2021, 2022. The first one is the Boston Harbor Road Northeast Stormwater Conveyance and Outfall Improvement Project. It is slated for design in 2020 and construction in 2021. It is to repair and replace a failing outfall. It will decrease flooding. It will involve the construction of a culvert. It is rate funded, and the estimated cost at this point is $1.8 million. Next project in 2021 and 2022 is the Woodard Creek Retrofit Site 4. This project was identified in 2014 in the 2014 Woodard Creek Retrofit Study. It's designed to reduce localized flooding and improve water quality. It is one of 3 Woodard Creek projects that was identified in that 2014 study. It involves the installation of a bioretention swale. The project scope for this was expanded to eliminate some flooding along Lemon Road, some substantial flooding along Lemon Road. It is a rate-funded project, and the estimated cost is $2.12 million. The design for this is substantially complete at this point, and we would be looking to construct in 2021.
And when you say rate funded, could you explain that just a little bit more?
Yes, that is a stormwater capital facility rates. So each parcel within the county pays both into a stormwater operations and maintenance fund as well as a capital facilities fund. And so these projects would be paid for out of the capital facilities fund.
Thank you.
Next project is the Lemon Road Pond. This project is to reduce localized flooding. Parts of Lemon Road at times floods and is impassable during extreme events. This was also included in the study of 2014. Design is scheduled for 2021 and construction in 2022. It is to construct a constructed wetland detention pond, provides water quality treatment and stormwater storage. It's linked to the Woodard Creek retrofit. It again is rate funded, and the estimated cost is $956,000. Next project is the Meadows Subdivision Pond 4C retrofit. This is located southeast of what was Ostrom's in the Lacey UGA. The project is to regrade the site to meet current water quality and treatment standards. It will protect Little McAllister Creek and McAllister Creek from high flows and untreated stormwater. It is designed to replace a pond inlet and outlet. We have it's slated for design in 2021 and construction in 2022. It again is rate funded, and the estimated cost of this is $716,000.
Is that in the Lacey UGA?
I believe that is located south of Stillicum Road, north of Pacific Avenue, and east of Ostrom's, and I believe that is the Lacey UGA.
Isn't there some annexation going on with that area right now?
There's an annexation that I'm aware of that I don't believe is in this particular area, but close. And I can get you more information on that, on where that annexation is.
I guess what I'm wondering about is any chance of recovery on some of this. I mean, I hate to spend all the taxpayers' money from the county and fix it up and let it annex in. So I just wonder if there's negotiations that go on, some kind of a schedule or.
Yeah, typically not that I'm aware of with service to our UGA, unless we are aware of an upcoming annexation, and then we may have discussions with the cities. But in this case, I don't think that occurred.
Maybe I can elaborate on that answer, Commissioner. This year, the legislature passed a new law related to annexations, where any type of annexations we need to engage in a new local agreement with the jurisdictions affected, and that will probably create opportunities as to how we can discuss those items.
Well, I see it's upcoming for 2021, so.
Now, the project is coming 21, 22. We don't know when the annexation will occur.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I'd like to know some of that before we make the decision to make that type of an investment.
Well, it will be very difficult for us to determine when a city is going to apply for an annexation.
I know, but I'm just, when whoever sets the priorities on these particular projects, I would like to consider that in setting those priorities. That's all.
The board sets their priorities on the projects ultimately.
Okay, well, maybe we can hear a little more about that then at some point, like fairly soon, before we get going on that and find out it's going to go into an annexation in a couple of weeks.
It will not be going to annexation in a couple of weeks.
I know that never happens that way. I just threw that in there to get your attention.
The next project in 2021-2022 is the Manzanita Road Conveyance. This This is scheduled for design in 2021. It is to repair a stormwater outfall. This current system was built in the 1960s. The county has ownership and maintenance responsibilities for the outfall. The outfall has deteriorated, causing erosion of the shoreline bank. And this project would be to repair that. This project is rate funded and the estimated cost is $300,000.
Is there any salmon involvement here?
No, I don't believe so. I believe, and Zainab may want to chime in, but I believe this is an outfall that does not have direct connectivity to the sound.
I guess I'd like to be assured of that we're not doing something that might disrupt something going on our salmon recovery.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain of that, but I will check and get back to you.
Hi, this is Zainab. This outfall only carries a roadway drainage from a very small stretch of roadway and then goes into the sound. It's not a fish passage issue. Fish do not enter this outfall.
Okay.
Thank you, Zainab. The last project for 2021-2022 is the Madrona Beach Road Northwest vicinity retrofits. Ooh, if I can get on the right page here. This is to replace failing stormwater infrastructure as well. It's 3 locations along the roadway. The failure is causing erosion and localized flooding. It consists primarily of some catch basin and dry well repair or replacement and proper grading to those systems. The estimated cost is $170,000 for this project, and it's scheduled for design in 21 and construction in 2022. And that is the end of our projects. I think we spoke to phasing as we went through. The table also, as you're aware, contains projects that are in consideration for future years out to 2026.
I check to leave. I guess I'm raising my hand to myself, so I'll just pipe in. Tim, the couple times last year, there was a presentation, and I'm hoping I'm not misremembering this, but there's a presentation about incorporating like habitat-related projects with our stormwater, and I'm wondering if any of the things that you outlined fall into that bucket, or is that something that we'll see in the future that's being developed? Where does that fit in?
There are no projects currently on the CFP that are associated with that program. We have moved forward. Mark Maurer and to some degree Zainab has been involved in getting that project fleshed out, if you will, and vetted through the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board. We are wanting to move forward with developing that project, and we'll be coming before you again with a briefing on restoration as part of the capital facilities project, but currently there are no projects on the CFP.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for Tim? All right, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
I think we're on a schedule, so as I understand it, this was supposed to wrap at 10:30, and I think we're at 10:35, so we're really close. Jennifer, do we need to put a 10-minute break in at this point?
Well, we're actually set to wrap up at 12:30. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
No, I just meant that I was checking the schedule at the beginning of the slide deck. There was storm and surface water. There was a schedule for each piece of the briefing.
Correct. And so this is it. We did schedule, we weren't planning on taking a break at 9:30. So the question would be, do you want to take a break now before we come back and talk about solid waste and transportation? Or would you like to push through?
given that we're right on schedule and the next presentation is due at 10:45, I would suggest we just take that 10 minutes, use the restroom, whatever, get a cup of coffee, and then convene back here on time at 10:45.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Do we need a countdown? I didn't catch that.
Ready to go.
Okay, ready to go. Okay, I'm going to flip it back to Jennifer.
Absolutely. So next up for the briefing is for our solid waste projects. And the wonderful Miss Karen Weiss is our interim solid waste division manager. And so she will be giving the briefing on this. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, commissioners. I also have, as a part of my team, Rick Thomas is available from our program project management office, and he heads up a team here to manage some of these, most of these projects. And so if there are details that he can add to the discussion, I would ask him to do so. Okay, so very good. So again, this is the criteria that we are using to prioritize our projects. They're designed to ensure efficient, reliable, and affordable solid waste collection, handling, recycling, and disposal services for our citizens, for our customers and residents. And they are also selected to improve public and employee safety and security, address our operational needs, which include a huge growth component. I think we can all acknowledge there's been an extreme increase in the growth at the WARC and the drop box sites, and meet legal and regulatory requirements. Some other considerations as we evaluate projects, there was an HDR facilities condition assessment and capital needs analysis that was completed in 2018 at the request of the board. It was presented to the board in 2018, and it really provided a roadmap, a high-level roadmap for identification and prioritization of our projects, and some very initial cost estimates were provided at that time. We are also going to be going out for a request for proposal for our disposal and operations and transfer operations in the next, within the next couple of years. And so we are evaluating projects with an eye for potential operational efficiencies and opportunities to make that RFP process more advantageous for the county. And then finally, there is an HDR consultant master plan that is in the very early stages of design. It's just very conceptual at this point, but that is how to maximize the use of the site and address current and future growth and operational needs beyond what our existing structures provide. And so that is also going to inform some of the projects as we continue on that master plan development. All of the projects that you will hear about are funded through solid waste fees and charges. We have an adequate fund balance, which has been specifically set aside to deal with these long-term capital improvement needs. And so this is a good example of how it should work in terms of having the opportunity to set aside money over a period of time so that we have sufficient funding to address our long-term capital needs. With the exception of one program, there are no new funding asks. All of the projects that you will hear about today have already been approved by the board at that project level, but they will all be coming forward, or there will be action taken on them in that 21-22 time period. So, and so I guess to this, you'd heard earlier from Jennifer and Robin about how the CIP was designed a little differently, that some of the early design costs are no longer being included on that. Some of these projects that are in the design phase are on the CIP because they were previously approved coming into this CIP development project or timeline. So with that, we'll move to the specific. Okay, so construction in 2020, this is the sump vault access hatch well cover replacement retrofit. This is taking place at the Waste and Recovery Center. This is a project that is replacing covers for pumps and on pump vaults, and it installs grills so that this is truly a safety improvement for staff as they test and sample the wells. So when it lifts up some of the apparatus that they use to do that testing and does not then allow for a straight shot into the well. So these are being replaced and will be completed in 2020. Okay. So the next projects is the flare station, and I think you've all heard about the flare station along the way. This also takes place at the work. This is an existing project that is currently on track. It is the right sizing of our flare system to handle methane gas produced by the closed landfill. These flares will be adjustable to address the needs of our diminishing gas production over time. So this should be the final system that's needed to address that on the closed landfill. There was a project assessment done by Herrera, who's the subject matter expert in this area. And so right now we are in construction, beginning the construction phase. We're at 100% design. That should go out for bid and award in September of 2020, and it is an approximately 1-year project for completion. Okay, the SCADA system replacement. Tim? Oh, yes.
Am I okay now? Now that you're going to put something in place that is adjustable, I guess that's what I heard, because I know there's a reduction in those gases that we're trying to burn off. Is there any possibility that because of that adjustable component, we could utilize that gas for a small amount of electrical production to go back in the grid at all?
What I will ask Rick to add on to this, but from what I understood, when Herrera came in and did the assessment, they just did not there was not sufficient quantity of gas produced at this point in the life cycle for that to be economically feasible.
I knew that. I mean, I did know that was the case. That's the answer I've gotten before, but I thought with this new adjustable flare system or something, maybe there might be something there that we could salvage. I don't know, just a question.
Fair enough. I will check back with that, but at this point, I've also been informed that the answer is there aren't really those opportunities, but we'll certainly continue to explore them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next is the SCADA system replacement. Thanks to Tim Wilson, I don't need to tell you what SCADA stands for. It is also a current project taking place at the work. It is moving forward at the same time the flare system is moving forward, because the flare system is an integral component of the SCADA system replacement, and there's connectivity needs and advantages. So this again is, as Tim has explained earlier, relative to the utilities, it's a communication system for our complex and sophisticated infrastructure components at the work. So it includes the flare, other environmental monitoring systems, such as our extensive pump system. So this is going to provide better information for us. It'll allow for 24-hour monitoring, alarm response, and data integration between our components. This is also addresses safety issues, but also efficiency for staff who will be able to address issues and make adjustments without needing to necessarily come onto the site during all days and hours of the week. So estimated cost of this is $1.29 million, and again, moving on the same track as the flare system. So looking for completion towards the end of 2021. Okay, the next two slides, you see Rochester renovation, but on the following slide, 69, you're going to see Rainier renovation. So I'm going to talk about them collectively. So these are current projects at the Rainier and Rochester site, each estimated at a cost of $1.9 million. They are also moving forward together due to taking advantage of design similarities and efficiencies in the process. These are to address basically facility deficiencies at those Dropbox sites, which are continuing to have additional growth received there. So I don't know if you have been to these sites, but there's definitely a lack of adequate facilities to take care of operations, staff safety and health. I look at it as having a very, very small studio apartment where everything is in one room, trying to conduct business with more than one staff. So we'll be looking at and providing some more appropriate facilities. There's a scale installation with a scale house. Currently, they're measuring by yardstick out there, so that will have the obviously an efficiency standpoint and also just accuracy of information. And then we're going to, with an eye again to the RFP process, explore options for potentially increasing the trailer size out there. That will do two things. A, allow for added more increased capacity. On occasion, our trailers get full and we have to stop accepting waste out of there. They are transported currently back and forth to the wharf then for compacting and processing. And so as the analysis goes forward, if we were able to increase the trailer size out there, excuse me, that may provide an opportunity for those trailers to be hauled directly to the transportation site as opposed to needing to go back and forth to the wharf. So also addresses sort of our carbon footprint. Right now, we are in the process of site assessment on that. We've had a consultant go out and review both of those sites, and they will do a design feasibility and provide options for those sites, and we'll convene a group, internal staff, operations staff, the consulting, and then also our contracted operations to discuss those options. So in 20 and 21, we'll be in the design phase, and in 21 and 22, we anticipate construction.
Commissioner Mentor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Karen, as you're moving forward, I'll just use these two sites as an example, Rochester and Rainier. I take it we would be considering the COVID issue about, worker separation, protection, that type of thing. Is that going to be added in as well?
Yes, absolutely. As we design any site at this point, we would be taking into consideration just that separation from the customers that we serve.
Okay, and then maybe one other thing, and I don't know if it's been considered or maybe it doesn't need to be considered, but as you upgrade both of these sites for, you talked about capacity issues. I know at Hawks Prairie, the traffic in and out of there is a big issue that we're going to be coming up against sometime in the future. And I just wonder, has there been any talk about the possibility of developing a contract with, say, the Lewis County solid waste site that we could haul from maybe these two locations in some kind of a scheduled arrangement to help us alleviate our problem at Hawks Prairie, at the same time eliminate our carbon footprint to a degree by going to a closer location in northern Lewis County?
Karen, I'll step in.
Okay.
I've spoken to the Public Works Director down in Lewis County, and not specifically for those reasons, but at a higher level, just where there's opportunities for just coordination. At this point, that's not something specifically that we're exploring.
Is there any chance it's worth exploring? I don't know the answer myself, but I like to talk to folks and try and make the best deal for our taxpayers anytime I can.
Certainly, I think that there's always opportunities to have discussions, to take advantage of lots of different things. We, at this point in time, haven't done that. The waste that's being generated within Thurston County, we are taking care of in Thurston County. And I know at one point in time, Lewis County actually closed down their facility to any out-of-county waste.
Yeah, I'm aware of all those issues, but I'm thinking into the future. If there isn't some possibility that they might upgrade, we're going to be over capacity on traffic flow in and ingress egress issue in Hawks Prairie. So I'd certainly like to at least consider having basic conversation about the possibility.
I certainly think we can explore it. I don't see us as being over capacity in traffic flow at some of the improvements that we're working on, that we have, that we're planning.
Okay, just please take a look, I guess is all I ask.
Yes.
Thank you. So let's see, Jennifer, we can go to slide 70, I think. One more, because I talked about the Rainier. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. The next project is security technology and electrical improvements. This is primarily at the waste and recovery site, but there will also be some drop box components to this. It is an existing approved project. It's more a combination of multi-year projects with phases. This does go through 2022, and some of the components are software and hardware improvements. And I think you are aware of those. This would be the Paradigm software upgrade and associated infrastructure improvement that will address and improve operational efficiencies and information. Some perimeter security items will be addressed. There was a security assessment that we requested in 2019 performed by Risk and the Sheriff's Office, and they had some findings of ways that we could improve the safety of the site for staff and just for the facilities themselves. And so those findings will be incorporated into these improvements, and they include things like fencing, a card key access, and a camera system. And then there are electrical improvements that are part of this, and primarily these will have to do with generator replacements that are past their useful life, may not be the right size for the work that we're asking them to do, and those will support our pump infrastructure, provide redundancy for our continuity of operations, and enable us to continue to comply with permit and regulatory improvements. There will also be some data connectivity improvements. We've been working closely with the IT department on those to allow for more redundancy with our data and to ensure continuity of operations, so that if one system goes down, we aren't having to manually process customers through. And so, due to the growth and the essential operations of these facilities, those things are all important items for us to address. Okay. Okay, next item is the transfer station operations, facility upgrades and improvements. Again, an existing approved project out at the Waste and Recovery Center. The primary focus of this project is to provide upgrades to the transfer station, Lower Bay area, which will address stormwater and security issues. It's currently gravel down there, and that gravel with the high degree of traffic over that, large vehicles, creates a lot of dust and mud and silt, which negatively impact and go into our stormwater system. So we're looking at paving options there, looking at some lighting to address some security issues in the transfer station area. And all of those will also have the added benefit of reducing maintenance costs in addition to the environmental impacts and safety features of those. So the design is in 21-22, which will be used to inform construction. Construction is actually slated for 2024 at this point. So this is one of those that's in the early design stages, and we'll have more scope around it after that design is completed. Okay. And then public tipping area with new scales and scale houses. This again will be at the WARC. It's in pre-design at this point. It's very conceptual at this point. This is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, a master conceptual plan is being developed. And so this will be one of the outcomes or one of the items coming out of that. The goals here are to address Commissioner Edwards, much of what you said. This is better use of our site space, and we're going to need to address future and current growth issues. Those include congestion, customer safety, and clarity as to how to navigate the site, separation, likely separation of commercial and self-haul, and some better efficiency in the flow of traffic and customers through that. So there are also ongoing differential settlement issues with the landfill as that continues to settle down. So at this point, that design will be occurring in 2020 and the actual construction will take place in 2024. So again, this is one of those high-level conceptuals at this point. We would obviously be having more detail for the board as we move forward with this particular project. Okay. And then this again is our solid waste table. I have gone through all of the projects that will impact the 21-22 budget period. The one I will highlight, just like you've heard before me, is there's down at the bottom there, you can see the general facilities renovations and upgrades program. That one will come before the board for approval at this budget cycle. And this is, again, allows us to respond to emerging needs, the ongoing deterioration of our facilities, many of which have passed their useful life. We have complex and essential operations out there, and so it's critical that we're able to respond to them in a timely manner and to address and make sure we're within our permitting and regulatory requirements. And just as a case in point, in 2020, just recently, our technical operations trailer was identified to have mold issues, which is obviously a safety issue for our staff. So because of this type of a program, we're able to move quickly to replace that trailer to provide safe working conditions for our staff. So with that, any other questions?
I don't, Commissioner Edwards. We good to move forward? Okay.
No, good.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, County Engineer with Public Works. Thank you for your time this morning. And from this point, we'll start talking about the transportation projects. And as you're aware, the county has just over 1,000 miles of roads, over 130 bridges that we're responsible to maintain. And with that, there's pressing needs throughout the county. So one of our challenges, just like the other capital facilities programs, is to try to identify ways we can prioritize all the needs we have. Certainly, we don't have the resources to do everything we need to do, so it's essential that we are able to do that. When we prioritize our projects, certainly we look to preserve the road system the best we can and maintain what we have. That is our preference because, as we've shared with you before, the cost to preserve a road is far cheaper than it costs to upgrade a road. And for example, if we are able to chip seal a mile of road, which is a fairly inexpensive way to preserve a mile of road, it costs about $50,000 a mile. If we are unable to do that and the road continues to deteriorate, the next level of work we do is typically an overlay, which is about $300,000 a mile. And as time goes on and we're unable to do that as well, the cost to upgrade the road itself can easily reach over $1 million per mile for some of the rural roads. So that's why we focus on the preservation best we can. And what you'll see here today is a list of projects that either are generated from road upgrades, from just due to the pavement condition. Oftentimes they address safety issues. Many times also we're trying to prepare for the expected growth in our community. I believe by 2040, we're expecting to see another 80,000 people in our community. So we do the best we can to address the needs we have now and also while planning for the next 20 to 40 to 60 years. So with that, we're very reliant on external funding for all of our capital projects. We've been fortunate in that the commissioners did allocate money for the Fish Passage Program the last several years. That's been extremely helpful. We also rely on state and federal grants for a big chunk of all the other work we do. Typically about 10 to 30% of our projects are using local money to leverage those grants. Sometimes that local money is county road funds, sometimes it's traffic impact fees. Typically those are what they are. So going on to look at the projects completed last year, we did have several projects, kind of a variety of projects as well. The Delphi Road Phase 2 project, that was a rural road upgrade sponsored or funded by the county road funds the County Road Administration Board's Rural Arterial Program. That upgraded about 1.8 miles of Delphi Road from 62nd Avenue to 32nd Avenue. We also replaced a fish barrier on Peisner Road at Tobotten Creek. That was part of the Fish Passage program. We had a grant from the Safe Routes to School program to provide or upgrade pedestrian access to the Olympic View Elementary community. And finally, last year, in the Grand Mound area, we added a roundabout at the intersection of Old Highway 99 and 198th Avenue. That was a project that was designed by the Thurston County, but constructed by the Chehalis tribe in the Grand Mound area. This year in 2020, we have a very busy construction season going on right now. Certainly our biggest project we have going on right now is the Mullen Road Improvements. That is upgrading a section of Mullen Road from the Lacey city limits to just east of Carpenter Road. That is in the middle of construction, and that construction will continue into 2021. And about 45 minutes ago, we opened bids for the Reeder Road project. That is a project funded by the federal government that will replace the county's only structurally deficient bridge on Reeder Road in the Maytown area. And the bids opened so recently, I have not even heard yet how the bids came in, so I'm excited to hear about that. We also have the Case Road Fish Barrier Removal Project going on. In addition, we have the Peisner Road at Elbow Creek Fish Barrier Project and Jones Road at Salmon Creek Fish Barrier Project. In addition, we have the Highway Safety Improvement Project going on right now. That's going to end up replacing 8,000 feet of old guardrail on Little Rock Road and Wattle Creek Road, installing new guardrail about 3,000 feet on Tono Road, and adding about 10 miles of shoulder and centerline rumble strips in the Vale Road and Rainier Road area. All told, this year we have about $13 million of construction that is construction contracts in the works, and that's a significant investment to our community. And going on, and I'll jump into some of the projects that you'll see in the next 21-22 budgets. One of them is the Marvin Road Upgrade Project. This is, as you're aware, addressing some of the concurrency issues in the Marvin Road corridor. This is a roundabout at the intersection of Marvin Road and Mullen Road. Estimated cost is $2.5 million. And this is a project that is going to be funded and built by a local developer. Public Works did the design, and the developer is anticipating doing the construction on that, I believe, in 2022. But it'll be up to their schedule, so they have to have it done by 2024. And moving on to our Fish Passage Enhancement Program, I mentioned that earlier. This has been a very successful program, and as you're aware, winning state, national, and even an international award. We've had a lot of collaboration and cooperation from local groups. We've been communicating with the local tribes as well. In 2021, we'll be presenting to you 2 projects going to construction. One, which was mentioned earlier in the Parks and Trails, the Latigo Street and Chehalis Western Trail project. That is a project we were able to get over $1 million of RCO funding to help that construction. And the match on that was the real estate excise tax. We also have several projects down in the Gate Road area that will be going to construction in 21. And in 2022, a barrier removal on Little Rock Road at Sargent. We have some going from barriers to fish to barriers to people right now. We have projects that will be, that we were successful in getting some funding on to install some mid-block crosswalks for all residents, including the ADA community. These are projects that will be on the Elm Highway and Pacific Avenue. The 3 mid-block crossings on Pacific are going to be at Lake Lois Drive, Seahawk Drive, and Ranger Drive. In addition to those mid-block crosswalks, there'll be other ADA improvements in those areas, the ramps, sidewalks, and pedestrian crossings. We were successful, as I mentioned, getting STP funding. And we're also using the Transportation Impact Fee funding as a match for those, in addition to County Road Fund. We expect to go to construction on that in 2022. And along a similar line, we did get a separate pot of money through the HSIP program using County Road Fund as a match to upgrade additional ADA improvements, pedestrian refuge islands, ramps and sidewalks on the Pacific Avenue as well. So it's a separate pot of money, which is why it's listed separately on here. It had to be listed separately due to the funding source. Moving on to the Yelm and Meridian area, this project will be adding a roundabout at that intersection. We are well into the design and right of way. We expect to go to construction on this project in 21. This is going to address some really critical safety, add some really critical safety upgrades and increase the capacity of that intersection. This project is SDP funded, which is a federal fund with leveraged local county road fund as well. And earlier in the project on this, we actually used some of the traffic impact fee funding to help as seed money to get the project going. In 2020, very first part of 2022, we will be going to bid on the new roundabout at the US 12 and Sergeant Road intersection in the Grand Mound area. This has been a very collaborative project to improve not only traffic flow in the area, but to help stimulate some economic development in the area, which will provide better access to some private developments. This has been, again, a collaboration between Thurston County, some private developers, including the Chehalis Tribe and Coffins and a few others. We expect to go to construction, as I mentioned, and go to bid in the very first part of 2022. And it's the county funding, and this is read with financial contributions expected from the Chehalis Tribe and the local development community. Total cost on that is about $3.3 million. Moving on to the southeast part of the county, we do have a rural road upgrade project planned for 2021. This is on the Vale Road area from 138th to 153rd. This will add some new pavement, 11-foot lanes, 5-foot shoulders in that same section of road. It's funded by the County Road Board's Rural Arterial Program and also the County Road Fund as well. And again, that should go to construction in 2021. Moving on to the Lacey urban area, or the urban part of the county, there is a barrier owned by the county on Carpenter Road that was struck by a vehicle. And it's not your normal barrier. This barrier is right along the road on the backside of the sidewalk. And with the damage, or what this barrier will do is prevent cars in the future from striking the barrier and potentially going past the barrier down about an 8-foot drop onto a private parking area. So this is going to certainly support public safety, traveling safety, and we should be going to construction on that in 2021 as well. This is funded from the County Road Fund. Moving on to Latigo Street and Spurgeon Creek and Chehalis Western Trail culvert replacement, which is a mouthful. And now this, I guess, will be the third time I've brought this up. First through Parks and Trails, second just a moment ago in the Fish Passage program. This is the project we did receive. I believe it was $1.4 million of RCO funding to do this. The end result will be a 80-foot pedestrian bridge on the Chehalis Western Trail to span that Spurgeon Creek, in addition to a 50-foot bridge on Latigo Street. We expect to go to construction on this in 2021. Removing these barriers was going to provide some real key access to some fantastic high-quality wetlands just on the upstream side of Latigo. We have seen small salmon on the downstream side of these culverts for several years now, so it's going to be a very exciting project to complete, and I think this one will be very well received once it's all done, because it will be a very dramatic improvement of what we have out there now. 188th and Moon Road intersection. This is in the southwest part of the county, down near the Chehalis Reservation. And you may recall, this is a project that was kind of spurred when the DOT was proposing roundabouts on US 12 at the intersection of Anderson Road and Moon Road in an effort to address some real safety issues on the US 12 corridor. Working with the DOT, we figured out a way that we can save taxpayers probably over $1 million and avoid DOT having to construct a roundabout on the Moon Road and US 12 intersection. The concern was initially that if the DOT proposed or installed 2 roundabouts that were originally proposed, it would simply divert traffic onto other local county roads and then create safety issues just further east on US 12. The reason they would do that primarily is to access the community and the Chehalis Reservation, including the casino on that reservation. So working with the DOT, we were able to come up with a plan that will certainly improve driver safety in the area, reduce demands on the county road system, and provide safe access for that Chehalis tribal community. So this is a project that, because we save DOT so much money, they will be funding a turnaround at the intersection of Moon Road and 188th. So a portion of Moon Road will be closed to through traffic, but it will be open during emergencies because, as we know, that area gets recurrent flooding in the wintertime. So the road will not be abandoned. The road will have a permanent closure on it, but will be open again during emergencies as needed. Moving on, our traffic team is doing a safety data collection study. This study is going to really focus on collisions throughout the county, and it will be used to guide improvements on investments for our project. And you may recall we did a county road safety plan recently, and this study will really be an appendix to that plan. We expect to complete this in 2021. Looking into our road preservation program, I did touch on this a little bit earlier when we really try to focus on maintenance and preservation in all we do. What this program is doing is looking out over the next 2 years, just like the budget, and it would include about a $6 million overlay contract for 2021 and about a $3.2 million overlay contract for 2022. What we're doing now is really trying to focus on doing a big overlay project 1 year, a big chip seal project the next year. By doing this, it helps our crews better prepare for these, do the prep work, I guess, for the overlay contracts and the chip seal work. And as an end result of that, our overlay work this year is smaller with just 153rd Avenue proposed for overlay. And then in 2021, we expect to do about a $6 million overlay program. And in addition to that, we are asking the board for a $700,000 allocation from the real estate excise tax to help us do an overlay on the Churchill Road in the Tenino area. This is an area that stretches from 507 going south and then east on Churchill Road. Certainly overlays can help extend the life of our road, and one of our goals, as I mentioned earlier, is to try to avoid our roads reaching the point where an overlay is not effective. So the $300,000 per mile for an overlay is, again, far cheaper than a $1 million plus per mile rural road upgrade. So now on the table, so I've kind of gone through a lot of these projects already that you'll be seeing in 2021. What you'll see there as well is some projects that we have in the plan for 2021 are really closeouts of projects that we're in construction on right now. So I'm not sure if you were able to, if you're looking at this electronically or on paper, and if you can see it okay, but really the intent is to look at kind of the phasing of our projects and what we have coming up in the next 6 years. And I will be going over, related to our project list is our transportation improvement program following this presentation on transportation projects. And certainly some of the pieces you'll see in this slide and the next slide are not final, they are draft, and you will be seeing the final version through policy level request as you consider the budget adoption later on this year.
You ready for questions?
I opened it up to any questions you might have.
Commissioner Mentor?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Could you just give us that figure again on chip seal cost what and overlays cost what?
Sure. Typically what we've seen when we contract out for chip seal is it's about $50,000 per mile. And a typical road overlay is about $300,000 per mile. And that's per center line mile. So a typical 2-lane rural road would be about $300,000 per mile and about $50,000 per mile respectively for overlay and chip seal. And the cost to do a rural road upgrade can easily be, typically is over $1 million per mile. The recent Delphi Road project, I believe that was on the order of $1.3 million per mile. So the cost per mile for upgrades can vary significantly based on a variety of factors, whether there's extensive wetlands, whether there's a lot of right-of-way acquisition issues. Some rural roads are fairly straightforward, you know, they're high and dry and straight, but others get more challenging at times.
And then on that 50,000 or 300,000 or I guess 1 million per mile, is that both lanes of a 2-lane road, did you say?
It is, yes, of a 2-lane road. So
yeah,
where it can get a little bit confusing is when you compare, say, a Vale Road, which is a 2-lane road, say it's $50,000 per mile to chip seal. But then if you look at some of the more urban roads, the Elm Highway, 1 mile segment of that road might contain 5 different lanes or 4 different lanes, depending on where you are in the road. So the cost there would be significantly more. But typically for a rural 2-lane road, you can look at about $50,000 per mile for a chip seal.
and then traditionally, I mean, just average, when you do the chip seal, what, you get 5 years, and when you do the overlay, you get 10 years or what?
8 years and 12 years respectively.
8 years and 12 years, okay.
Yeah,
good.
real roughly.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, can you, I'm sure you're going to segue, but can you explain the connection between what you just went through and what we're going to go through in the next chunk with the binder and the TIP?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, it's a big document about the entire transportation system. Included in that, in Chapter 6, is a list of the 6 years worth of projects, which is essentially what I just went through now, except what I focused on now is just what you'll see in the next 2 years. So when I go through the TIP itself, I won't be focusing on the project so much, but really more on the other chapters and parts of the TIP itself. So if you have questions about specific projects, you know, now is certainly a great time to ask, but I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions as we go through the TIP itself too.
Okay, good. Anything, I don't have any questions at this point.
No, me either, sir.
So
Okay.
maybe we're good there on that. What's next?
So that's all I have for the transportation CIP. And from here, I guess I'll kick it back to Jennifer Davis. Is that right?
Sure. Yes. Happy to. I think everybody did such an excellent job of going through everything. We're really efficient. And I took notes. I think other folks took notes on some of the follow-up requests from the board. So everyone will know how to get back to you on those. And then, as I said at the beginning, the next step is really there'll be some budget work that Robin will be doing so that all of these projects can have more accurate costing. And that'll be through August that work will take place. Then in September, we actually bring this whole package, this Appendix G of the comp plan, which is this capital improvement plan, to the Planning Commission. We'll do an abbreviated version of this briefing with the Planning Commission. They'll hold a public hearing. They will have a recommendation that'll come back to you. in the November timeframe. And then ultimately all this will get adopted with the budget in December, at the end of the year. Robin, was there anything else you wanted to say about the immediate next steps for your side of the equation?
Right. On the budget side, what we do is align 2021 and 2022 with your capital budget. So what comes out of the meeting today, the numbers will continue to be refined for the next week or so. And final budget numbers come in on August 10th. On that date, we are required, the board is required to submit to the auditor a comprehensive list of all capital projects for the coming years. So we submit that list on your behalf, and the list consists of all the items that you looked at today for the ensuing biennium. After that, it goes through the review process. The budget and the CIP, we again ensure that they are aligned in all the different funds, and it will come to the board for your review of the capital budget in October and November. And then comes all back together at the budget hearing in December.
Okay, questions on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Robin.
That concludes our presentation, unless anyone from the floor had any last minute additions.
So Ramiro, what's the plan for the transition to, we come back at 12:30 for TIP?
That is according to the schedule, and we have listed on the agenda as such. So you may want to use this as a break for lunch.
And this is do we keep the same Zoom, or are we coming back on a different Zoom?
Let me double check. I think we have a different Zoom for the TIP. Yes.
Okay, so then we're adjourned.
Before you break, sir?
Yeah.
I would just like to take this opportunity. I know I was questioning the county manager, you know, about spending time and will we remember this and all that, because we go over it many times by the time it's done through the process, and you know, sometimes on these separate projects. I just want to take this opportunity to compliment staff in what was a super presentation on all parties. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Nothing's ever perfect, but boy, this was a super presentation.
So that was short of perfect.
Well, you might never get me to say perfect, but
Just kidding.
it was super. And I just want to commend everybody for their diligence on putting this together.
Commissioner, that is greatly appreciated. There was a lot of work that staff put into this, a lot of coordination with the focus of really trying to better communicate to the board and explain our projects and the programs and the funding. I mean, that is the focus. And so to get that feedback is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
As far as I've ever seen, super is the top of the Commissioner Edwards scale. So you guys, that's a 10. It's a 10.0. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're
Thank you all.
adjourned. Everybody at 12:30.
Our